Hey everyone, this is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned into the Brave Files podcast. We're releasing this episode just a little bit late. If you're an avid listener, you may already know that. And the truth of the matter is because I wanted to have something to say specifically about the U.S. 2020 election. And as of recording time, I don't yet. It's been, to say the least, a nail biter. The anxiety that I'm experiencing and feeling is off the charts, and I know that's the case for so many of you. One thing that we do know from the election is that we've got a lot of work to do, folks. These results were not what I wanted them to be. I'm still hopeful that Joe Biden will come out the winner of this election. I believe that to be true, and yet we now know so much more about what we're dealing with as a nation. And that means that it's time to reboot and get back to work. But before we do that, I want to say a couple quick things. First, I want to tell you that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. I know personally, I feel overwhelmed and sad and anxious. I told my partner I wanted to run down the street naked, screaming at the top of my lungs. Like I feel like I'm coming out of my skin, and I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm going to sit with that for a minute. I'm going to sit in that space and allow myself to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. And I'm going to be really honest with myself. And then, universe provided, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to win this election, and I'm going to celebrate. I am going to allow myself to feel joy and gratitude and celebrate this earth-shattering, record-breaking win. I'm going to give myself a day for that. And then I'm going to make a new plan and get back to work, folks. We have a lot of work to do, and I want you to be really kind to yourself during this process. You know, it's funny because this week's episode is light years away from the social justice, activity-oriented piece that I would have wanted or planned for this week. But if you really stop to think about it, there's almost never a situation where we don't wish that we could flip time on its head, either make it go slower or make it go faster. And that's what we're talking about in this week's episode. I talked to best-selling author Karen Briscoe this week about her book and her concept, Flipping Time. How many times have you caught yourself saying, I don't have time for that? And then let's be real with ourselves. How often does that actually mean I don't have time for myself? Karen shares with us that if you feel like you're running out of time, what you're running out of actually is energy. So stay with us to hear her method, and it's one that will reframe the way you see time, and it might even set you free. But before we start the show, I have to share something really, really exciting with you. I'm actually really excited about this, even if you can't hear it in my exhausted, worn out election anxiety voice. If you've been an avid listener of the Brave Files, you know that several months ago, I teamed up with some amazing podcast experts to launch the Podcast Power Academy. And that's where we're taking people who have dreamed of starting a podcast from idea to reality and provide all of the resources, tools, and deliverables to make it happen in a short time frame at a really high-touch, high-level way. It is an incredible program. I'm super honored to be part of it. The Podcast Power Academy experts, Andrew, Matt, Molly, and I have been working alongside Dr. Kara Hanks to develop, design, and compose her brand new podcast, Ascend Evolution Podcast. Let me tell you just a little bit about it, and then we're going to play the trailer to her show, and then we're going to roll into this week's episode, Flipping Time. Have you ever been working toward a goal and felt something inside of you nudge you in a different direction? Or maybe you were taking a walk in nature and all of a sudden something clicked and you felt goosebumps. That, my friend, is called intuition. And it's learning to trust that intuition that Dr. Kara teaches every day to people just like you and me. And in her first episode, she talks about an unexpected encounter with a bat, which may be, like it's just a bat. But this experience reinforced that trusting herself is a constant struggle that we have in our lives, and it's something that we need to strengthen. So she talks about why running into a bat isn't just a bat and how to lean in and trust your intuition. I'm really excited to share this little bit of Ascend Evolution podcast with you. I hope that you will go and check out Dr. Kara's podcast. You can find it anywhere you're listening to podcasts. You can find it where you're listening to the Brave Files right now. So here we go, and then stick with us for our episode. Take care, friends.
Well, hello there. I'm Dr. Kara, shaman, energy master, registered nurse, doctor of natural health, and a mom. I'm an ordinary person living my extraordinary life, but it wasn't always this way. Learning to walk a shamanic path opened me to extraordinary and changed the course of my life. Welcome to the Ascended Evolution podcast, where season after season, I will be your guide around the medicine wheel, following the ancient wisdom path of indigenous peoples. We are all in the midst of a wild and crazy ascension process, and I want to help you. I want to support you. May these episodes inspire you to shine bright and live into your infinite potential with peace in your mind and love in your heart.
Creative Driven Connector.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Brave Files. This is Heather Vickery, and today we're talking with Karen Briscoe. She's the creator of the 5-Minute Success concept and the host of the 5-Minute Success podcast. Although she is wildly successful today, Karen didn't enter the traditional workforce until her son went to college. And this was after spending many years as a stay-at-home primary care providing parent. Karen's here to share how she created these major life shifts somewhat later in life, despite the voices in her head and society saying that she would never succeed because there are too many critical moments that had already passed. And she's got a lot of other gifts and goodness to share with us. Karen, welcome to the Brave Files.
Well, thank you for having me, and I am glad that I now can be included in the roster of someone that's part of the Brave Files community.
Thank you for that. It's a pretty great roster, not going to lie. So I appreciate that. So Karen, I definitely want to get into all of the details with you about this major life transformation. But before we do that, folks are really curious. What the heck is the 5-Minute Success concept?
So 5-Minute Success came about because I had been doing a lot of coaching, training, and speaking, sharing my journey of success, and it had a lot of opportunities to learn, grow, and become better than before, the redefinition of failure. And they wanted to know how I did it. But I would get this resistance. It felt like people seemed to think that they didn't have enough time to invest in their personal or business development, that this busy had just become a really epidemic proportions. And so to break down that barrier, I'd say, well, do you have 5 minutes a day? And people invariably say, well, yes, of course I have 5 minutes a day. Yeah. And so the book is designed to be a business book in the format of a daily reader, which takes about 5 minutes a day to read a page. And the people that have read the book and implemented it, they found that really, truly, you can invest 5 minutes a day and achieve a higher level of success. There's a lot of research around this. Parkinson's law states that the limiting and restricting time can actually help you become more effective and efficient. And what often happens in a lot of training and coaching and working with people is it becomes a tsunami-like, right? It's so much information that implementation doesn't happen. So the idea of a little bit every day then actually can have more of an impact. It can have a domino effect, like it knocks over a bunch of, one thing leads to another, or it can be a snowball effect. It can build, the knowledge, skills, and abilities can build, and it could also have a ripple effect, right? You throw that one pebble in the pond and it impacts out. So that's the origins of the 5-Minute Success, but it's it's been the places you can go journey, because ever since that creative endeavor happened, it's been so much more has come out of it. But that's the origins of it.
All right. I love that. And I completely agree. A few years ago, my partner decided, she was approaching her 40th birthday. She decided to start doing 5 minutes of exercise, and people literally laughed, but she did all of her research to figure out what were the full body exercises that she could do from home, and she would do them for 5 minutes, and she absolutely got fit and lost some weight and got a lot stronger just by doing that. So I've seen that work there, but with my own clients and in coaching, little shifts make big impacts. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You actually have a book that guides people through this, right?
Yes, my profession is residential real estate. Well, actually, I started commercial, but I'm presently in residential real estate. And the concepts are based on real estate practices. But what I found is that it applies pretty universally. The principles do. And so a lot of other sales endeavors, entrepreneurs, coaches have found applying the principles to be just as beneficial for their industries and professions as well.
I love it. I think that's awesome. Okay, so now let's go back a little bit and take us back to, did you have a career before you got married and started building a family?
Yes, I was actually in commercial real estate, and my husband's career brought us to the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro region 25 years ago. And his profession, had a lot of travel involved. And I know a lot of people's lives are busy. I'm not saying my life was less busy than everybody else, but the difference was I wanted to stay home. Now, I won't say it was my highest and best use or my skill set, but the idea of being home with my children when they were young was something I wanted to do. But it wasn't an economic, it wasn't as easy.
It's a bit of a hardship.
Yes, a little bit of a hardship.
Yeah.
So when I wanted to re-enter the workforce, I thought I was going to go back into commercial real estate after about a decade out. And I did get a position in commercial real estate at for the Staubach company at the Nextel account. And I discovered in that field, once you've seen one sales and engineering warehouse office, you've seen them all. I found it to be extremely boring. And so somebody said, well, why don't you do residential real estate? And to be quite honest, the people on the commercial side, they think that's the wussy side. The commercial is, it requires the skills of negotiation and strategy and market knowledge. And those are great skills to use in residential, but residential's more known as the soft side, right? The relationship, the people skills. Well, it turns out I actually have both hard and soft side skills and found it to be very beneficial to have that background in commercial because I deal with a very sophisticated clientele and they recognize that level of knowledge and skills. And so I met with success pretty quickly. And I'll just share that a lot of statistics out there, but in the residential real estate space, it's relatively easy to get a license. It's not as easy to stay in the business because, there's statistics all the way up to 96% don't last after 5 years. So it's a very high attrition rate.
Yeah.
And then to be at the level that I'm at, which is what's called a mega agent. So
that's a fancy title.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Karen, a mega agent.
I'm a mega agent. So I run a team of agents inside a brokerage. So just to give you perspective, last year in 2019, our team sold $91 million of real estate.
Wow.
Yeah, so we operate at a high level. We're consistently in the top 100 in the nation. And, but that was, there's a lot of things that happened along the way, but that's how I re-entered the workforce. And as you said, I did not start working full-time until the year my son left for college. And when I was in college, I went to a women's college, and there was this perception that women, if they didn't work, they were, wasting their education, or you're going to miss out on all the opportunities. You're going to miss the promotions. You're going to miss the chance to do interesting things. And so I had that limiting belief. You brought that up, but it's true. And so, I found that, this is where I want to encourage your community.
Yes,
that you can start at any time. And, there's a lot of skills that I actually learned a lot of my negotiation skills negotiating against my son because
I was just telling, I have an accountability partner. Hi Eddie, are you listening? I really believe in the power of accountability. But we were talking today about how hard it is to parent, and not to complain because it's incredibly worthwhile and rewarding, but it's freaking hard, right? And so I challenged him just today. That's so funny that you said that. At the end of each day to identify one lesson that he learned from parenting from that day that he can use personally or in his business.
Yes, because the thing is about negotiating with my son's redheaded and hard-headed, as his father says, and 2 or 3 year old, he doesn't have any, he doesn't have anything to lose, right? He's going to go full money.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn strategies when you're working with somebody that doesn't have anything to lose. So I think that I learned a lot and I grew a lot. And so I look at it all as life, right? So I know people, a lot of times you'll hear, work-life balance, all that. I'm like, you know what? It's all life. And the idea is not to, or what I feel, as many people talk about the balance, right? Like it's a teeter-totter. Mm-hmm. And so that is a 0+ game in the sense that, well, if you're looking at it like a teeter-totter, like if work is getting the focus, then your family or your quote-unquote life is not getting attention or focus, and it's going into the negative, and you're just constantly trying to balance it. And I think that the perspective I've taken is it's all life, and it leads to the fullness of it because the opportunities to grow in all areas, right, and to learn from it is as you mentioned, is there if you choose to look at it, choose to change the way you look at it.
Absolutely. I always say that for anybody when I speak or when I'm coaching, any of that is that your life has to work in a 360 manner. If life isn't functioning well, personal life isn't functioning well, professional life won't function well. And I actually have an entire speaker topic on creating work-life balance. So I always love it when people bring that up because I call bullshit on what you're saying as the same thing that you're calling bullshit on, which is it's not the scales of justice. It's not like you're trying to get it to be 50-50 because that's unrealistic. And so I've redefined balance. I heard you say it. I'm going to have you come back to it in a second, the redefined definition of failure. For me, the redefined definition of balance is when you check in with yourself at the end of the day, the week, the month, the year, does it feel good? Do you feel like how you've been spending your time is the way you want to be spending your time? Is it getting you the results that you want? And if it's not, what can you change, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's energy, not time, because I've now kind of become an expert on time because of 5-minute success that led me to becoming this, doing a lot of research and thought on it and talking with people on it. And time is a created thing. To say
that is true. It's a construct.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's like saying I don't want to. That's Lazoo. So that was 2,500 years ago. So we're still saying the same thing today, right? We're saying we don't have enough time. It really is more a matter of focus and energy. So it's your energy, not your time, that is a fundamental currency of high performance. So the whole idea of, and you mentioned it, but the idea of flip time, which came to me a couple of years ago when I did a TEDx open mic on it and have presented on it, is the idea of flipping time is the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Remember the pyramid?
Yeah.
Your psychology days?
Yeah.
Right. So you're supposed to work your way up the pyramid, right? Uh-huh. In Maslow. And so you start with your basic physical needs. If you think of the time of COVID, I mean, we really got back to our basic needs, right? Toilet paper. Yeah. I mean, think about what people's focus was.
Enough food to survive. Yeah, absolutely.
We went into survival mode. Then people went into the safety, security needs, which is the next needs of Maslow. And you see that a lot too, right? I mean, a lot of people's responses and reactions are based on them wanting to create the safety, secure at home, safer at home. And then you have your esteem needs, your relationship needs, and then self-actualization. Well, the thing is if you're working your way up the pyramid, you may run out of time and not get to self-actualization.
Yeah. And that's the best part.
And that's the best part. And what I found is when I flip the pyramid and I focus on self-actualization first, I'm actually living in alignment with myself. So I'm going to be more in tune. I'm going to have better self-esteem. I'm going to better relationships, right? I mean, what's a better relationship than to yourself and then to other people if you feel good about yourself? But the amazing thing is I've become so much more productive.
Yeah. Can we talk about that word productive for just a minute? What do you think of that word versus effective? Because I feel like productive, like we're not computers.
Well, I come out of a sales, world, and so we're all talking about our production all the time.
I know.
I'm a very driven person, so I am a results-oriented person.
Yes, yeah.
But I like effective. That's good too. It's more a matter of what I thought was back to the limiting beliefs I had. If I go back to work later in life, I will have missed out on all the opportunities. The limiting belief I have, and I see a lot of people have, is if I focus on myself, actualization, self-care, the things that give me energy and feed my soul, make me happy, that I am then back to zero-sum game. I'm taking away from the things that are going to actually...
Which is total bullshit.
Yes. So that's where I find, and so think about how can you really truly feel secure and safe? Well, you're in alignment with yourself, right? You can be happy anywhere you go if you are, connected to yourself on a higher level. And same with physical needs, because, and that's why it became so evident in the time of COVID that most people live Maslow's hierarchy of needs from the base up.
Yeah.
And the people that are that flip it and do self-actualization first, they're living a life they love right now. I mean, they're not waiting for whatever it is people wait for. The kids to graduate from college, the new car, the promotion, COVID, vaccine, whatever it is.
Well, and they're modeling that behavior for their kids, their friends, their partners, their colleagues, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, because if you're really truly living it, then it won't be. It will be very genuine.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. That's exactly. I mean, as a coach, that's the work that I do with people as well, is figure out how to rebuild it. And I always think of, and I love self-actualization as a new word other than self-care. I mean, they're different. They are different, but I think that the way you get to them is often similar. But it's like the oxygen mask effect, right? When you get in an airplane and they say, put it on yourself before you put it on your kids, because if you're a hot mess, if you break, if you fall apart, there's nothing of you to give to anybody else.
Yeah, and that is a really great analogy to talk about because that's self-care is a lot of that, right? You're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of other people. But a lot of that has a survival perspective. And if you're in an airplane and cabin pressure is changed and those oxygen masks drop, you should by all means put it on and help everybody else around you. But I want people to think beyond that to thriving.
Oh, I love this. Yes.
So if you're thriving, when I'm thriving, I'm creating opportunity for other people around me, back to the ripple effect.
Yes.
The more I can raise myself up, and then the more I can raise up the other people around me. Yeah. And that is thriving. That's going beyond that's making just the environment and everybody's world at a higher level. So
that's quotable right there. I love it. Yes, of course, the goal in life should not be simply to survive. It should be to thrive. And when you are thriving, you lift other people up with you. It's really magical. I'm certified in positive psychology, and I do a lot of work in that space. And I always love to share that journey of Martin Seligman, who shares that, psychology used to be about going from bad to zero. And he shows up on the scene and says, wait a minute. This is it? Like zero? is our goal.
Yeah,
We're
like,
going
that's
for
good.
0. That's not, we've got to be able to get better. We've got to be able to get happier. And of course, now there's real science behind how you can actually get happier. And gratitude is one of those ways, which is why I wrote 2 books on gratitude, right? So this is exactly what you're talking about, this whole concept of don't just survive, thrive, and take everybody with you.
Yes, and it's a both and, because I think that a lot of people live their life like, when something happens, then I'll be happy then. And this is a Hal Elrod quote with the Miracle Morning, but it's to love the life you have as you create and co-create the life of your dreams. So it's loving where you are right now.
Yeah. At
the same time, because I was doing that all the time. My children were growing up. I was like, okay, when you start school, then when you graduate, or then when this happens or that, these milestones, I was living for them. And I'm glad I was present, but I felt like I left a lot because I was not there when I was there.
Okay, that's a huge statement. So can you dig in on that just a little bit? You weren't there when you were there. And I think a lot of stay-at-home parents feel that. They're there because they choose to be, or because they don't have a choice, for whatever reason they're there, but they're not actually present. Can you speak to that?
So there was a book that was written by a hospice nurse called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And so if you think about what is going to matter, right, in your life, and as I reflect back on the things that matter, so it's the regrets that she found were what people felt like they weren't living their life. And most often it was the regrets of either not being there when they were there, or not doing the things that were theirs to do. So they, for whatever reason, somebody else thought they should be doing something, or they should, father's a doctor, so you become a doctor even though you're really a painter at heart, or whatever. You're just not being true to yourself. Those are, some of the top regrets. And as I have gone on this journey, and we might talk about it a little bit, but I discovered the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, Joseph Campbell's work, and the idea that we're all on this call. And it's our own call, right? Your call is different than my call. It could be a call to adventure. It can be a call to creativity. It could be a call to contribution. But whatever that call is, and if we don't pursue that call when we're supposed to, that's where a lot of times the regrets come in. And I feel like I was in the calling I was supposed to be on, so I pursued it. But I didn't pursue it wholeheartedly. I pursued it with a spirit of lack, if you will, rather than abundance. So instead of seeing the good in what I was doing, I was always looking at the things that I wasn't doing because I was doing that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And it's such a dangerous cycle to go down. Instead of looking at what's working and what you're learning and how you're growing, looking at how you're screwing up. It's such a dangerous place to spend your life. So share with us, if you will, as you decided you were going to re-enter the workforce. And do you mind, how old were you at this time?
I re-entered the workforce in my early 40s, but I didn't start working full-time until I was 50.
Okay, so 50 years old, you re-enter the workforce, and now she's a mega realtor. So there's that. You had these voices, and society is a bitch, right? So like telling you you're going to miss what was challenging, if anything, or were you surprised to find out that it really wasn't challenging? What did you find out?
Well, I was surprised about being so successful so fast. I had never done sales before, and so I always kind of considered myself to be more the worker bee and the numbers cruncher kind of person. So that was a surprise. But once I really, I don't want to say I got addicted to it, but I actually got
you loved it.
I got addicted to helping people.
Yeah.
And so I became good at it really fast. What happened, though, was in 2008, if you'll remember, the real estate market crashed, and it actually crashed the same month that my business partner passed away.
Oh,
and so
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. The biggest challenge was right at that moment was, well, do I keep going on? Do I carry on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people had that point of reckoning, like, I don't know if I can do this. And I had some muscle memory from previous market corrections, recessions, because I was in real estate in Texas. And so I did remember how that market behaved. And so I started implementing what I remembered worked for other people. And so Lizzie Conroy is my current business partner for 11 years now. She joined me, and that renewed my spirit. And so together we set about rebuilding. And so it took us about a decade. I'm not saying it happened overnight.
Sure.
But the amazing thing about that journey is it was we learned so much. We learned so much. In fact, in a lot of ways, you almost learn more when it's hard, right?
Absolutely.
Because
yeah.
We were in a rising market before. It's kind of like, don't confuse brains with a bull market. Anybody, I say anybody, and I'm saying that with quotation marks around it. It's pretty easy for people to do it when it's easy, right? And the market's rising. You kind of can't make any mistakes other than you might spend too much money because you're being, thinking, oh, it's always going to keep flowing. That's what a lot of people do, right? Because when the market's rising, that's what many people do. And then the correction happens, whenever. It always does, almost always. There's corrections. It's a natural dynamic of markets. And so when it happens, that's why in the Bible it's 7 years of plenty, 7 years of want. We're supposed to prepare for those things. Well, the challenge was I didn't anticipate having my partner pass away at the same time.
Yeah.
But we learned so much, and it really is that process is what then led to what I call my creative endeavors, because I reached a level of success where I was like, okay, I really did something. It was really hard. It was amazing. And everything's really good right now. So why am I not happy? Right? I mean, it was like, and then I was like, I was losing meaning in the work. And so I started doing some coaching with some people, and a woman, and in a group coaching. And when we were on a retreat, we were all supposed to share what it was that was stopping us from doing what we said we wanted to do. And when I got up to present, I just had like this light bulb go off, Heather, that basically was the only one stopping me is me.
That's right.
Right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda, I can do anything I want to do. I'm self-employed. I have the support of my family and, my friends. And I'm like, so what is this that's keeping me from doing what I feel I'm called to do, my calling?
Yeah. So what was the answer to that? What is keeping me from doing my calling? What was the answer?
Well, in the beginning, I thought it was time. See, that's why I've kind of become this time expert. I thought it was time. And I thought it was not enough money. And then I started to break down the time barrier, because I realized I have the same amount of time as everybody, right? I mean, that's really an excuse, if you will. It's like saying you don't want to do it if you say you don't have time. So I had a couple of epiphanies right after that. That was my big major epiphany. Then the next one was I happened to be on an airplane reading the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Well, Big Magic is about this idea that there are ideas in the universe, and if an idea comes to you, and if creativity comes to you and you don't act on it, and it's your calling, it's yours to do, but it's meant to happen, and you don't do it, someone else will. And that was one of my first epiphanies on, I'm going to regret this.
Pause for 1 second. Listeners, did you catch that? If you don't do it, someone else will. That's going to suck.
And I know you've had this happen. I mean, you've thought of things, right? And then you didn't do something about it, and then somebody else did. So back to regrets. I was like, this is a major regret, and I don't want to live this way anymore. And then Breaking the Time Buster, there's a book by Gretchen Rubin, you studying happiness. I'm sure you've read her Happiness Project.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she was like, okay, well, most people know what would make them happy, then why don't they do it? And she found it's because most people, have a limiting belief or block about habits.
Yeah.
And so she wrote a book on habits. which is called Better Than Before. And one of the habits or time hacks she shares is the whole daylight savings time hack, where when time falls back in the fall, you effectively are given an hour. Well, the thing is you can time hack yourself at any time you want to.
Of course
because
you can.
we all time hack ourselves when we travel across time zones, right? So, but I was like, I'm using that one because it was like about a couple of weeks later, I'm like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And it did. It changed my behavior. I changed my behavior. I got up an hour early, and my husband will tell you that is truly a miracle because I'm not a morning person. But Heather, I wanted to stay true to what I said I wanted to do. And I was like, well, I have to change something. So I'm willing to change that. And it turns out to be, writing as a writer, and you're a writer. Morning writing is the most successful time for most people is to write in the morning.
Okay, that's fascinating. I just was a guest on a podcast for a publishing company, and I said that I've learned for myself that writing in the morning, it's really the only time that and I don't want to say that I can write because that's bogus, but that I feel good writing, that I'm inspired to write. If I wait until the afternoon, I'm going to find every excuse under the sun and I'm not going to do it. But when I get up early, I was doing NaNoWriMo. So for the month of November, and I don't like mornings either. I get my ass up at 6 and I write between 6 and 7. And it's a game changer.
Yeah. So those three epiphanies were what was really the major pivot for getting me onto my creative endeavor journey. And that's been going on the last few years. And, now I have the podcast and 3 books.
I love it.
I just worked with a musician, collaborated on a production of a song.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it really is exciting. Now, he did the musical side, but I did the contribution to creating the lyrics. It's called Flip Time. And
that's so great. And that's your latest book, too, is called Flip Time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the Flip Time book is actually a heroine's journey. It's a story. It's told in an allegory form.
Okay.
Because I wanted people, particularly women, to see themselves and not just read my story. I wanted them to see, a story that they could actually relate to. So Haley, the heroine, goes on a journey, and she runs into, just as anybody who goes on a heroine's journey or hero's journey, you run into you have mentors, or like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. That's the most classic.
I'm gonna have
one,
to get my hands on that book.
Yeah. So she has mentors like, Glinda the Good Witch, but she also has, the Winged Monkeys and the Wicked Witch of the West. And she has friends like the Lion, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. And anyhow, it takes you through this journey that Haley goes through, and how she comes to love the life she has as she creates and co-creates the life of her dreams.
I love that. That's cool. And your other books are what?
So the other one is really very much a productivity book, The Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, and then the Commit to Get Leads 66-Day Challenge for people who want to jumpstart their productivity and business development prospecting.
And is that just geared towards realtors also, or is it for everyone?
So the stories are written in, pretty much real estate stories. Again, I've had many people say these are really great sales and entrepreneur success stories, in terms of, and the reason why they're stories is because, as you know, in literature and motivational, you're more likely to remember a story. So you got to remember it in order to be able to have it have an impact on your life and business. So people in all endeavors I've found have read them and seen that they work in terms of jump-starting their productivity and getting them grounded.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome. And where can folks get your books if they want to?
So Amazon is, the biggest source, obviously. But the website, if you want to buy a bulk, please reach out to me on the 5 Minute Success website. That's the number 5. And then also I'm on all social media under the number 5 Minute Success, and also my name, Karen Briscoe.
Yeah, cool. So if you folks want to check that out, I think it's really exciting. I love the concept of change your life in 5 minutes, probably towards any specific goal under the sun, which I think is really, really cool. As you've transitioned in all of these ways, for you, Karen, what would you identify as the biggest silver lining surprise?
The idea that if I can do it, you can too. That this idea that you really truly can achieve a higher level of success by investing just 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, you really can. I really believe that you can. I just told a client earlier this morning, she never stops. Her brain never stops. And I said, I want you to commit to, for 1 week, sitting in silence for 5 minutes. Set a timer. Because we need to stop a little bit. So even that, getting good with yourself, being comfortable with yourself for a minute, you can do anything if you give yourself 5 minutes a day. I love that. You have a movement that we just want to touch on quickly because I think it's fascinating. I've been following you, called the 80 by 80 movement. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so that started out, it's interesting. I'm reading a book that it talks about when people a lot of times make change happen in their lives. And interestingly enough, it's the nines. So like the 29, the 39, the 49, the 59. So my 59th year, my son and his friends talked me into doing a sprint triathlon. So I really didn't identify myself as an athlete growing up. I am an active person. I work out with a trainer and I bike a lot, and I can swim and I can run, but I had never competed before. So the crazy thing was I actually placed the fastest in my age group for a novice category for the sprint, my very first activity.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So everybody was like going, Karen, you didn't know you had it in you. And I'm like, yeah, I did not know that. And so one of my son's friends said, well, are you like addicted now? Are you going to do this again? And I said, yeah, I'm going to be that crazy person that does 80 by 80. Well, that stuck and then took off. People were like, well, when are you going to start your 80 by 80 movement? And I'm like, that was just this idea I had.
It's a joke. Yeah, it was a thing.
But it turned into more because I spoke about it at the event with Hal Elrod. And so I started this movement, and it's designed to be motivating, to encourage people to compete 80 either milestones or medals. So milestones are like hiking Machu Picchu. I just got back from Whitefish, Montana with my daughter, and we did the Road to the Sun bike ride, which is an elevation grade change of 3,500 feet in 12 miles. Yeah, it was crazy. She was on an e-bike, and I was at 61 on the regular bike. So the idea is, now medals, those are your any competition you enter that you get a medal. So the idea is to set up these challenges for your life and to complete 80 of them by the time you turn 80. So I'm 61. You can do the math.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in the time of COVID, when the regular competition was pretty much halted, although you can do the virtual ones, self-regulated, self-scheduled ones. But that's really the beautiful thing about the 80 by 80 movement, because the website will allow you to track, and you can put a photo and you can put what it is about that milestone that you did, that you consider that as one of your accomplishments for life. And it's designed to encourage. It's free. Everybody's welcome to join it and set up your own challenges for life.
I love that. And I know this is specifically, I love that you said, well, did you say miles or medals? It wasn't
milestones. Like a milestone.
Yeah. But I think for folks who aren't super athletic, like me, because I'm not, you could create that and make anything you want in your life. Like, what are 80 things you want to do before you turn 80?
Yes.
We had a guest on the show quite a while ago that did something very similar leading up to her 50th birthday, the year of her 49th birthday, which is really, really cool. And it was a great conversation. So I love this idea. And it's such a nice lead in to a question that I ask in every interview, which is, how do you celebrate success? And so you've got best-selling books. You're a mega realtor. You've done all these wonderful things. You speak. You've done a TEDx, all these. And now you're doing 80 by 80. So when you have a win, how do you like to celebrate it?
It's interesting because I can't say that is something that I've been very good at. I have to be I have to really consciously take the time to do that. And the other day, my husband, I had a big win, and he goes, "Are you going to just stop?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess I should," and stop and accomplish it. So there is this. I'm sure Amy Cuddy and the presence. That there's these movements you can make that will help physically to celebrate.
Yes, I teach
right?
those actually to all of my clients. Yeah, they're awesome.
So the
power
victory.
moves.
So I love the victory pose because I find that to be very empowering. And even when I got to the top of the Road to the Sun ride, I lifted my bike up above me. So I would say that is one way that I do stop and acknowledge. And the celebration of completing these milestones and medals and putting them in the website, that's a way to celebrate. Yeah.
That's totally the way to celebrate. Your husband's right, though. And I can tell you from the training that I've done in positive psychology, celebration and gratitude are a key to healthier and happier lives. And you're so good at that in all these ways. Like, give yourself a minute, even if it's just a minute. If you stop and you go, holy shit, that was great. I did that. Like, love on yourself a little. So many ways to celebrate. So thank you for sharing that. It's always fun. I love to ask that question and I hear from folks a lot, especially big doers. I don't celebrate enough. And then we talk about it more and they go, well, maybe I do it. And you did. You shared how you do it. I love that. So the last question I have for you today is something near and dear to my heart, and I ask it every week. What is your favorite charitable organization to support?
The Front Row Foundation is a wish organization, and it's for children and adults that have life-threatening illnesses. And actually, that's where I got the inspiration for the victory pose, because that's what they do with their guests, the recipients. They will create an experience or an event that is meaningful for that person. They videotape them. They even have usually like a limo. They bring the whole family. And so I really celebrate what they're doing. I know John Vroman, the head of Front Row Foundation personally. So we, at all of my endeavors, support the Front Row Foundation.
I love that. Thank you. We are going to link to them in our show notes so you all can support. The reason I ask this question, for those of you who are new to the Brave Files and to listening to these conversations, is that I believe deeply in the importance of making our lives bigger than just us and connecting as a global community. And so I always love to share different ways that folks like to get connected and support. So Karen, thank you for sharing that with us. Karen, can you share your 3 words one last time?
Creative, driven connector.
Yes, I love that. And I can see all of that in the course of everything that we've talked about. Clearly, you have over and over again redefined and creatively approached wherever you are in your life, which I love, and you just get it done. And in order to be a mega realtor, you got to be a connector, right?
Yes, absolutely. and being a podcaster, you're a connector, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much so. Yeah. So much so. Speaking of that, tell folks how they can catch your podcast.
So 5 Minute Success podcast is wherever you listen to your podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast. And you can always go to the 5 Minute Success website, and all the podcasts are there too.
Awesome. So you guys should check that out for sure, because it's a great podcast. And as you can tell, Karen is super inspiring and wonderful. Before we go, though, can you just share again what your redefinition of failure was?
My redefinition of failure is the opportunity to learn, grow, and become better than before.
Y'all, that's it right there. That is it right there. There is no such thing as failure. It's just an opportunity to learn, grow, and become better than before. Karen, this has been great. Thank you so much for spending some time here with us.
I appreciate being able to share with your Brave Files community.
All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next Thursday, just like we are every week. If you love what we're doing here, can you do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review, and maybe share it with a friend? You can find somebody who you want to choose bravely with, and maybe you can listen together. That'd be fun. We would love to hear what you think of the show. You can give me a call, or any of us here on Team Brave, at 312-646-0205, and let us know what you love, what you want to see more of, and how you are out choosing bravely. And last but not least, if you have not already joined our Facebook community, Brave on Purpose, come and hang out with us. We are a wonderful community of people who are just like you, trying to leverage their fear into intentional bravery in big and small ways every day. Search Brave on Purpose on Facebook and you can find us. So this is Heather Vickery. Thank you so much for being here with us. And remember, go out today and every day and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.